Welcome to the Gavel. I'm Terry Ikumi. It's already the second week of January 2025. Well, the year seems to be in a hurry, and so too do federal lawmakers who are intent on passing the 2025 budgets before the end of the month. Now, they had embarked on recess for the Yuletide immediately after President Bola Tinubu laid before them the proposed 49.7 trillion naira 2025 budget. But somehow, some have now resumed to begin the defense sessions ahead of official resumption date on the 14th of this month. Now, the committees on appropriation from the two chambers held separate meetings with chairmen of standing committees to discuss the process of passing the budget. So let's take a look at the budget's defense process so far.
Committees from the two chambers held separate meetings with chairmen of standing committees to discuss the timetable for the budget passage process.
The first thing we have succeeded in doing is to ensure that the hard copy of this document was given to all committee chairmen as their working document. And this is to enable the committees to invite all the MDAs to defend whatever has been allocated to them in that document, starting with their personnel, overhead, and the capital. After which, we are expecting the report back from the 15th of January to the 18th of January. And from there, collation and tidying up of the document will commence with the Committee on Appropriation.
As you have seen the committee chairman here, we had the discussions in terms of budget defense. We are commencing from tomorrow to 17th of this month, and we are expecting that all the MDAs, both the ministers and head of agencies, to come up to defend their budget. That's the essence of budget defense now. They are coming, we'll ask them questions. If we are comfortable, we can allocate the money. If not, we can do otherwise.
According to the timetable, the lawmakers apparently have just under 3 weeks to finalize the budget process. The lawmakers are planning to suspend plenary upon resumption from the Yuletide holiday to give committees time to conclude work on the budget.
As you're all aware, the time frame is short, but we have no choice than to work hard. And that is why I must thank all my colleagues who have agreed with us to shelve their holiday. And we will do that with all vigor and ensure that all that needs to be done on this document must be done. Senate will definitely, in their wisdom, give 2 weeks break. So the 31st of January is a tentative date to guide our workings. If there is need for us that the budget be extended beyond 31st before eventual passage, we will not hesitate to do that.
The Senate meeting then proceeded into a closed-door session to finalize strategies for a timely passage of the 2025 budget.
That's the essence of budget defense now. They are coming.
Meanwhile, the chairman of the House Committee on Appropriation, Mr. Abubakar Bichi, has said that the House hopes to pass the budget before the end of January 2025.
It's a long process actually. Budget depends, harmonizations, then presenting the reports. But we can see maybe towards the end of the month or early next year.
As the budget defense process commenced, ministers and heads of government agencies within the week faced intense scrutiny during the 2025 budget defense session in the Senate. Members of the Senate Appropriations Committee met with the President's economic team, led by the Minister of Finance and Coordinating Minister of the Economy, as the 2025 budget defense session kicks off in earnest.
There is no way this country's economy can collapse.
The chairman of the committee opened the conversation by inviting the ministers to explain, among other things, the status of the nation's economy and the content of the 2025 appropriation bill.
As we look at the 2025 appropriation bill, we are poised to continue in the same positive direction, including increased economic growth. Under President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, is no longer a place where rent-seeking, where unproductive activity yields huge rewards.
Today, our subnationals are more liquid and they are able to meet their commitments. And even the federal government prioritization and performance of all the initiatives we have put forth CNG transition are all supporting the strategy, and we are seeing the benefit.
Not fully satisfied, the senators raised questions on the capital expenditure for 2024, as well as the savings and expenditure from the removal of fuel subsidy, the economy, and other inquiries.
In as much as the revenues are actually improving, but the independent revenues of the GOEs was very dismal. Even NLNG, the dividends that was meant to have come in, didn't come in as at that time. So I need a confirmation whether it has come in now and how well are those GOEs performing.
One of the reasons that constituted a cog in the wheel of the successful implementation of the capital component of the budget, issues of payment, but now it is concentrated in the office of the Accountant General, and it has brought a lot of bureaucratic red tape and bottlenecks in the process of implementation. And it has also, according to that school of thought, breeded a lot of corruption.
Amidst the barrage of questions, Mr. Edun requested for a closed-door session to provide detailed explanations to the questions. After the 3-hour closed-door session, there was no further communication with the media. Separately, the Senate Committee on Information and National Orientation met with the Director General of the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Lanre Isa Onilu, and the Director General of the News Agency of Nigeria, Mr. Ali Muhammad Ali.
When we say we communicate government policies and programs, the explainer that we publish every Friday and that is widely circulated in this country, and it's being reviewed every Monday by 187 radio stations, including 8 TV stations, are part of communicating government policy. It's different from what the way the civil service, the public sector works. I mean, our agency. The PRS department monitors every program. So the 8 million you saw there is for them to monitor the implementation of that particular, of any program that we do. So it's not, monitoring is not communicating. Communicating is actual dissemination of information. But the PRS monitors every single program and give report that this program was actually implemented. So that's what that department does for the program. So they are not in any way similar, sir. When we do a program, the monitoring department monitors and reports independent of the department that handles that program. So that's 1 and 4. So they are not saying the same thing.
Satisfactory answers were not provided to the committee, and the agencies were eventually asked to go and reconcile their figures.
Blame you or do more than just assisting you do your work and do it very well. And that's why these creative ideas has all been brought before you. Your paper here, since you're already addressing us all what you've done, we should be able to know where this fund that you have used to achieve this is coming from in this paper. So I would want you in your next appearance, let's have more details. And in presenting your proposal, we have the right, that's why it's called appropriation. We have to appropriate, redirect before we make it a law. And that is why we are looking at it. We are not here for jamboree. You have noticed all the concerns of the senators that contributed. You have to restructure your proposal to capture those areas of concern for this, your budget to pass. Because that is the essence of this technical session. We are looking at it to know how this money is allotted to you is being spent and how you are applying it. Concerns are already raised, which is the essence of this meeting. And those concerns you have to note and restructure your proposal to capture those areas of concerns of the senators before they can. Mind you, after this session, we are taking it before appropriation committee, which you are not going to be there. With these committees to go and defend it
In the House of Representatives, the Minister of Environment, Abubakar Lawal, appeared before the Committee on Environment. He expressed satisfaction with the process so far, saying that ordinarily, budget defenses should not be done in one day.
Left to me, what has happened is quite good. We will go back. They will start to sort out the discrepancies they have mentioned, and I'm sure by next week, whether I'm here or not, it will be sorted out.
So
thank you. No, I'm definitely comfortable with them. They have done thorough work, which I really appreciate. So it's good that we also go back and look at the things that they have raised issues with, and we'll try to resolve it. So sometimes defense of budget is not a one-day affair. I know when I was in FCT, sometimes it takes 3-4 days to go and make presentations because the budget is coming a little close to the year. But sometimes I found that when it comes earlier, it comes here 3-4 times to depend the budget. So I think it's quite healthy. I have no worry about it. It's something that we'll resolve by next week, inshallah.
Earlier in his welcome address before the budget defense commenced, the committee chairman, Honorable Julius Pondi, frowned at what he described as the abysmal low release of funds to the ministry, which has led to missed opportunities to address environmental challenges facing the country. He, however, listed deforestation, pollution, erosion, and climate change across the country as some of the challenges.
It is therefore the outcome of today's review that will set the tone for planning and resource allocation in the year 2025 budget. Prominent among other concerns of the committee is that effective 1st January 2024, the Environmental Health Council of Nigeria and 13 professional bodies / councils was removed from budgetary allocations. The same 13 bodies have since been reinstated, leaving only ECON. Let me use the opportunity to call on the Honorable Minister to work closely with the committee to ensure that ELCOM is reinstated. As a committee, we are disposed to increase budgetary allocations for this critical sector, in as much as we see key projects that are envisioned that will strengthen climate resilience, combat pollution, enhance community awareness, and ensure accountability in the year 2025 budget proposal of the ministry and its agencies.
To wrap up the first week of the budget defense sessions, a joint National Assembly Committee on Electoral Matters meets with the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Our proposal for 2025, the Commission requires the sum of 126 billion. So I would like the support of members of the National Assembly to ensure that we are adequately funded for the responsibilities we are required to discharge. And most of these responsibilities are constitutional. They are not just in the Electoral Act. They are not just for propriety. They are also constitutional. I hope very soon the chairman of the joint committees will fix a date for us to have a retreat. Let us lock ourselves somewhere in another city in Nigeria and discuss these issues very, very carefully. The conduct of election is becoming a big burden.
Welcome back. The federal lawmakers in the current assembly are in their second year, and by June, the 10th National Assembly would have completed its first half. So let's turn to the Policy and Legal Advocacy Center plaque, which provides capacity building and legislative support to the National Assembly. Let's get expectations for the year 2025 and also assess the impact of the high turnover in the 10th National Assembly. Here's the breakdown with plaque.
I think when you have had a previous National Assembly where 80% of its membership did not return, the turnover is really very high. And if it's that high, it means that the expectation of the newly elected members was that they would quickly learn the ropes and understand what they want to do going forward, understand what their agenda is and how they intend to achieve and implement that. I'm not quite sure how quickly those who have been elected into the 10th National Assembly, especially the new ones, have come to full grasp their mandate and their responsibilities. So it is a challenging thing, and I think it's something that Nigeria needs to solve, a situation where you have more than 80 members, 80% of membership of legislative houses get kicked out every 4 years. And when you look at the National Assembly, I think it's a bit also worrying, because it seems to me that when you look back, it seemed like the previous assembly was better than the one that came in. And you can see that from the way that the legislature manages its relationship with the executive. It would seem to me that looking back, a previous National Assembly would appear to be more assertive than a newer one. And now we're seeing that play out with the 10th National Assembly. The nature of relationship between the executive and the legislature is skewed so much in favor of the executive, to the point that people are worried that the National Assembly is not asserting its responsibility to be able to hold the executive to account. And I make the point repeatedly that the most important responsibility of a legislature is for members to represent their constituents. The second most important is issue of oversight, and we can speak to issue of oversight in connection with the budget, which is one of the most important bills in National Assembly today. First of all, it is worrying that the executive submitted a budget in the last few days of the year, when practice, and indeed best practice, is that a budget for the incoming year should be submitted for passage no later than 3 months before the end of the fiscal year. So the executive has failed in this responsibility, but members of the legislature have not interrogated this. And then, as happened in 2024, the budget, in fact in 2023, the budget for 2024 was passed within a few days. And clearly, not very many members of National Assembly saw the budget that was passed. I think it's worrying now that you have a 2025 budget, which was submitted a few weeks to the end of 2024, which the National Assembly has decided that it would pass within 2 weeks. It is not clear to me how much scrutiny they intend to exercise over a 2025 bill that is there. And especially worrying is the fact that the executive has requested, or National Assembly has even approved, that the previous year's budget will be implemented into the first half of the year. So there's already confusion. You have a new budget for 2025. You have a 2024 budget that has now been permitted to run into the middle of 2025. So the whole issue of oversight of the executive continues to diminish. And the consequence of that for accountability, for responsibility, and for holding the executive arm of government to account is quite ominous for the country. And I think that the National Assembly has to do a lot more to win the confidence and trust of Nigerians that it is intent and able to carry out especially its role of oversight. 2025 is the midterm of this current 10th Assembly, which means that by in June, you would have had 2 full years of the National Assembly, meaning that you have the balance of the second half of their tenure. That second half, of course, is dominated by politics, or politics of those who want to come back to be re-elected. And so the focus for a lot of legislators would be getting nominated, getting elected. So it would seem to me that whatever the priorities of the National Assembly is, the legislators, and perhaps even at the State House of Assembly level, whatever the priorities are, it should be that they conclude serious legislative business by the middle of 2025. And the issues that are outstanding at this time include proposals for constitutional reform, proposals for electoral reform, of course managing the budget process and fulfilling the role of legislators to properly carry out oversight and represent their constituents. So there's quite a lot to do. There are several bills of interest, and one of the most important at this time is the tax reform bill.
On Constituency Focus this week, Senator Manu Haruna, representing Taraba Central Senatorial District, is on the hot seat to explain his impact as a federal lawmaker on his senatorial district.
As legislator, we don't need to be urged. We've always been intervening when it comes to when people are in their needs. And that period wasn't an exception. So I intervened in my constituency, and so also many senators too. And my constituents are very, very happy with the intervention. During my campaign, part of what my constituent asked, my constituency, let me say, my senatorial district, maybe perhaps is the only senatorial district that is not connected to the national grid. Out of the 5 local governments that I'm representing, just 1 local government is connected. That's my local government, which I connected when I was the deputy governor then. But the remaining 4 local governments are not connected to the national grid. And throughout the campaign period, especially the youths, that's what we've been saying. We want to be connected to the national grid. And thank God, in this budget, in the budget of 2023, one of the local governments, there is a funding to connect that local government to the national grid. And then now that supplementary too is coming, the second local government is coming. So I think this is one of the major things that especially during my campaign, my constituents have been asking. Of course, the second issue is the issue of the Mambila. I happen to come from that senatorial district where the famous Mambila hydroelectric power project is cited. This is one project that is very, very dear to my heart, to ensure that the whole of Taraba Central is being connected to the national grid. And I'm sure in the next 2 budget cycle, by the special grace of God, Taraba Central will be connected to the national grid. If there is any project, if there is one single project that I want to achieve, is to ensure that Taraba Central is connected to the national grid, because currently we are the only senatorial district in the whole of Federation that is not connected to the national grid. Of course, there are other projects. For example, we have like the Takalapia projects and road projects and even the Mambila continuation of the Gashaka to Sardauna road, because it's a federal road. And of course, there are so many, the Jalingo Yola road too, is dilapidated. Yola to Numan, Jalingo to Mutumbiu to Ukari. These are major projects, road projects that are on trunk A road. And those roads are not passable now. And they are major trunk A roads. So we hope that during our time in the National Assembly, the federal government will look into those roads.
Well, that's all the time we have on the Gavel this week. Thanks for watching. Remember to send feedback to the Gavel at channelstv.com. I'm Terry Ikumi. Goodbye.